Hello and welcome to DC 808 on the Wire. I'm Chad Blair with Honolulu Civil Beat in Kaimuki. Thank you for joining us today. A very special guest from Washington, D.C., Adrienne LaFrance, our former D.C. bureau chief, now working as a journalist in another capacity, but coming back special to talk to us about the presidential inauguration. Hello, Adrienne.
Aloha.
Good to see you. Can you tell us exactly where you were and what you saw there on the mall for the inauguration?
Yes, I was actually right up front. I was in a little staging area just beneath the president's lectern. So I had quite a good view of the action. I was seated among some other reporters, congressional spouses. I didn't have the opportunity to roam around as much because it was a small area, but I did see one person wearing a lei, a plastic red, white, and blue lei. Turns out he was from Pittsburgh.
Well, what do you think was the most memorable line in the speech? It's getting a lot of raves right now, certainly much better than what he did 4 years ago. What stayed with you?
Well, a moment that I noticed people around me react to probably the most was when he referenced Stonewall among Seneca Falls and Selma in reference to our civil rights values.
We, the people, declare today that the most evident of truths, that all of us are created equal, is the star that guides us still. Just as it guided our forebears through Seneca Falls and Selma and Stonewall, just as it guided all those men and women, sung and unsung, who left footprints along this great mall, to hear a preacher say that we cannot walk alone, to hear a king proclaim that our individual freedom is inextricably bound to the freedom of every soul on earth.
So that was one of two key moments, actually, when he specifically mentioned gay rights. And people around me were clapping, cheering. You know, I think surprised to hear him so explicitly talk about gay rights and pleased from what I observed.
And of course, Stonewall was the historic occasion, sort of the beginning in many ways of the modern gay rights movement. Seneca Falls, really the beginning of the women's movement in the 19th century in this country, and the civil rights movement in many ways, Selma, Alabama in the 1960s, we all remember that. Of course, this historic day fell on Martin Luther King Day, another historic occasion. Senator Brian Schatz, by the way, I happen to be following his Twitter feed, and he said that the speech defied conventional wisdom in that the president actually addressed some policy, something that they normally wait until the State of the Union address, which comes up next month. Was that your feeling as well?
There was talk of policy. Specifically, in fact, I thought of Senator Schatz because President Obama, right out the gate, mentioned climate change as a priority for his administration. And I know that's one of the issues that is important to the senator.
Right.
He also referenced the Newtown shooting. So gun control is something we've been talking about a lot in this country, obviously. Gay rights, of course, women's issues such as equal pay for equal work. So a lot of references, or at least allusions to policy that you wouldn't necessarily hear in other inaugural speeches.
What was the general mood in the audience? I know it was very cold in D.C., but what were people feeling? What were they expressing?
It was a very upbeat crowd. People were optimistic. You know, I actually looked specifically for Republicans. I was curious about how many might be out, and I only found one. But she was very happy to be there as well. Her comment to me was that even though she didn't vote for President Obama, that this is all of our country and we need to go forward together. And I got that sense a lot from people who are really eager for bipartisanship, really eager for cooperation among members of Congress, which we just haven't seen in recent years. So a lot of optimism there, including from former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, who I interviewed. One of the things that she brought up that she's most hopeful for is cooperation, because I think everyone agrees that it's necessary in order for us to get anything done. At the same time, it's sort of a broken record message. It's something we heard 4 years ago as well, and I don't think most people are happy with the level of cooperation in Washington.
Speaking of Madeleine Albright, trivia time. She is, in fact, related to Brian Schatz. If I have it correct, his twin brother is married to her daughter, so she's actually Auntie Madeleine to Senator Schatz. Do I have that right?
I believe so. Lots of Hawaii connections out there if you look for them.
Finally, you got to clear this up for me. Is it true that out there on the mall, all those millions of people, or at least hundreds of thousands, that your cell phones don't work during the inauguration because maybe the Secret Service is jamming the signal?
Well, my cell phone worked from about 5:30 a.m. until around 8:30 a.m. and then it stopped. It's a popular sort of conspiracy theory that it's the Secret Service thwarting our reportorial tweeting efforts. But from what I've heard, wireless carriers have said that it's just the volume of people. You know, you get so many hundreds of thousands of people in this concentrated area. Everyone's trying to tweet or send photos or text
Right.
or call, and it just shuts down the signal. So.
Okay. Well, Adrienne, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you will stay warm there in Washington. And please join us again on DC 808 on the Wire. It's just been great to have you back.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you so much.
And for another episode of DC 808 on the Wire, I'm Chad Blair for Honolulu Civil Beat. A hui ho.